we are going to do 4.9, okay? Now, one of the things that gets confusing about 4.9 is it has two types of problems in it, okay? So here are the things that we're going to learn. We are going to graph, and we are going to solve quadratic inequalities. Okay? So the first thing I want to do is I want to write two problems on here, and I want you to see if you can tell the difference between the two. That'll help you. Of course, the directions will be a big help to you. We know a lot of people don't even read directions. They just look at a problem and just automatically think they know how to do it. Okay? So I'm going to say you might want to read the directions. But here, I'm going to write two problems up here. Now, what am I asking you to do about these two problems? Tell me what's different about them. Okay? How am I going to be able to look at a problem and tell which one of these is going to be? Because one of these is going to be really easy, and one of these is not going to be easy. Okay, so two different problems, all right? Tell me what's different about them. Okay, one has a 0 in it. What's the other one have? A y. So, which means one of them is going to be graphed and one of them is going to be solved. Which one's graphed? Yeah, this one right here, the one with the y. All we're going to do is graph it. People, do you know how to graph a quadratic? Should you know how to graph a quadratic? I might want to ask it that way. Okay? I mean, haven't we been graphing quadratics since before Christmas? What was the first way that you learned how to graph a quadratic? When it was in what form? Standard form. Okay? It's just a little review. Okay? Standard form. What is standard form? Y is equal to what? Perfect. AX squared plus BX plus C. All right. How do I, now obviously if I'm going to graph a quadratic, I'm going to need to know the vertex. Do I agree with that? Okay, so does anybody remember how to find the vertex when it's in standard form? Oh, thank you, Alex. Negative b over 2a. The only person all day long that has known that. Everybody else I had to say negative b, and then they all said, oh yeah, over 2a. Okay? So, how are you going to find the y coordinate? You're going to plug this h in. Okay? Now, what was the next way we learned how to do it? Vertex form. Okay? The next way was vertex form. Alright? What is vertex form? Y is equal to? Perfect. What's my vertex? HK. We love vertex form because it's really easy. You just change the sign of the H, keep the sign of the K. You can look at it and tell what the vertex is. It's very easy to graph it from vertex form. Okay? Is it always easy to put it in vertex form? No? Anybody remember number 8 from yesterday? Was that pretty? No. No, that's not pretty. No, it's not always easy to put it in vertex form. That's not going to be what I always go to. Okay? To graph it, you know, sometimes if it's easy to complete the square, then yeah, I might do that. But not going to be my always go to. Anybody, what's the last one? Okay, intercept form. Intercept form is kind of like factor form, right? So y is equal to a times x minus p times x minus q. Okay? How am I supposed to find the vertex on intercept form? Anybody remember? P plus q. Yeah. Be careful because that's the one that says p plus q divided by 2. If you did p minus 2, hopefully you would see that would not be correct. Because where is the vertex going to be with respect to the P and the Q? Yeah, it's going to be right in the middle. So if you subtract them, it's not going to put it in the middle, okay? So, and then you're going to get the Y by plugging that H in again. Okay, so you learned all this. Now, so I'm going to say, this is going to be my go-to right here. Factoring it, it's going to make it really easy for me to graph it. Okay, I can find my X-Intercept. Once I find my X-Intercept, I can find my vertex really easy, and then I can do my graph, right? All right, let's see what you remember. We're going to do this one. I'm going to try and factor it. Okay, I'm going to find my X-Intercept, find my vertex. I'm going to look at it. What is it? It's a parabola, right? What does this tell you about the parabola? It's what? This right here. What is it? When you graph an inequality, what do you know you're going to have to do? Shade. Okay? So I'm going to have to shade. First of all, it's going to tell me how to shade, but it's also going to tell me what about my parabola. It's not solid, but dotted, because it's not nor equal to. Okay? So, let's factor it first. Okay? Can you factor that? X and X, minus sign at the end means a plus and a minus. What are the factors of 4 that subtract to be 3? 4 and 1. I want a positive 3, so who goes by the plus sign? 4. And the 1 goes here. Okay? Now, if this is my factor, what's my root? Come on, guys. Negative 4. If that's minus 1 is my factor, what's my root? Positive 1. It's always going to change signs, guys. Do you know why? Look right here. If you said x plus 4 equals 0, in order to solve for x, what do you have to do every time? The opposite of what they did, right? Or you can say, well, pull this to the other side and change this sign. What if it had a number in front of x? If I remember what that number would be, what would happen to it? Yeah, it would become your... Oh, no. I'm not talking about... I'm talking about roots and X-Intercepts. Okay? I'm talking about roots and X-Intercepts. Here's what I'm asking you. If you had a number right here, like we'll pretend I had a 3 right here. Now what's my root? Negative 4/3. What does that coefficient become? Your denominator. Okay? It becomes your denominator. All right. So, let's get disconnected. I wonder if it's really disconnected or it's halfway disconnected. It's really disconnected. Okay. So, I want to erase that. Okay, so these are my roots, all right? If I was going to graph this thing, we know it crosses the x-axis at -4 and +1, right? Now what do I need to find? Yeah, you got to find your vertex, okay? The h part of the vertex is equal to p plus q, -4 plus 1 over 2. So that's -3/2. So on my vertex right here, I got -3/2. How am I going to find the y part of the vertex? Plug it in. Going back to this equation that I was given, I'm going to find the y when -3/2 is my x. Okay? So here was some stuff that y'all did on that worksheet. I kept seeing this. Yes or no? People kept putting that in the calculator just like that, well, that's not right. If you're going to put that negative there, you have to put the parentheses. Okay? Otherwise, the calculator's going to square it and then pop a negative on it, and it will not give you the right answer. Plus 3 times negative 3/2 minus 4. All right. When you square a fraction, what do you do? Yeah, square the top and square the bottom. What's negative 3 squared? What's 2 squared? What's a positive times a negative? This is 3 over 1. Top times top, bottom times bottom. And then I'm going to put minus 4 over 1. What do I have to find? What is the common denominator between 4, 2, and 1? People, this is already a 4. Don't mess with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. What do you have to multiply 2 by to make him a 4? So I have to multiply the top by 2. What you do to the bottom, you have to, it's all about being fair. What's negative 9 times 2? Negative 18. What do I have to multiply this bottom by to make him a 4? So I'll multiply the top by 4. What's negative 4 times 4? Alright? So now, what's negative 18 and negative 16? Negative 34. What's 9 minus 34? Okay. Negative 25/4. That's my y coordinate. Okay? Now look. I'm going to say for the majority of you, do you look at that negative 25/4 and know exactly where that is? Most of us look at it and go, wait, what? Okay, so let's just turn it into a mixed number. Negative 3/2. How many times does 2 go into 3? 1 time with 1 left over. That's negative 1.5. How many times does 4 go into 25? 6 times with 1 left over. Now I know where that number is. It's just my little sheet. Okay? So I got negative 1 1/2. Oh, I got to put some little tick marks down here. Negative 1 1/2. Negative 6 1/4. And here is my parabola. Oh, thank you, Spencer. Okay, now what else we have to do? Shade. All right. So, y'all remember how we shaded the line? We looked and we saw where did you cross the y-axis? And then we looked at the y and said, what y's do I want? Those above or below? Y'all remember that? We do the same thing. So this thing crosses the y-axis right there. So what I usually do is put my finger on that place. Okay? And then I look back up here and I say, I want the y's that are greater than. So if this is it, the y's that are greater than, would they be above that point or below it? Above. When I go above, is that inside my parabola or outside my parabola? Then that's where you shade. Everywhere inside. Anybody got a question? Is that hard? No. It's kind of the stuff we've been doing, all right? It's just applying it a little differently. All right, so everybody okay? Okay, so I'd like to spend the rest of the time talking about solving quadratic inequalities, okay? This is the harder part, okay? This is the harder part. This is what your test is over. This is going to be a 50-point test, and this is all that it's over, solving quadratic inequalities, okay? So, here we go. You ready? Here's the first problem that we're going to do. Notice that we skipped quite a few, but they're all graphing. I don't think graphing... Oh, let me ask you this question. Can I check that on the calculator? Can I graph a quadratic on the calculator? Okay. So, guys, use your calculator to check your answers. Now, do I want you to copy off of a calculator? No, that's not going to do you any good. Okay? But I want you to check your answers on your calculator. All right? Man, if they had these for multiple choice, would we bust out and get all those right? I would hope so. Okay, so here we go. This is example 4.8. The problem looks like this. X squared plus x less than or equal to 6. They want me to tell all the answers that I can plug in there and make a true statement. Okay? What are all the x's that could go in, or all the numbers that could go in for x, and make something on the left that's less than or equal to 6? Probably more than one number, right? Okay. So, I'm going to write down the steps. There's 6 steps. Okay? There's 6 steps. Some of them are going to sound a little crazy. So whenever we do them, you'll understand what we're talking about. Okay? All right. So here we go. You ready? The very first step, we are going to make a 0 on one side. Okay? However you want to say it, people, I don't care. You can say, put everything else on one side. Put everything on one side and 0 on the other. Okay? I just said make a 0 on one side. Here's the second thing we're going to do. You are going to find the X-Intercept. Now, put your little comma right here. Not a comma. Please that. Thank you. A parenthesis right here, because in the parentheses, I'm going to write down what's the best and easiest way to do that. What's the fastest way to find an X-intercept? Yeah, it is intercept form, but that's not what you call it. What do you call it? Doing what to it? Yeah, factoring it. Okay? So the easiest thing is going to be to factor it. Now, what if you try for about 2 minutes to factor and you can't factor? What might you... Yeah, but what could you do? Could you look at the discriminant and it would tell me if it would factor, right? What does the discriminant have to be in order to say, yes, he factors, you just haven't figured it out yet? 0 or a positive perfect square, okay? 0 or a positive perfect square. Very good. All right, so that'll tell me if, yes, it factors, you just haven't figured it out, so work a little bit harder. Now, what if it doesn't factor? What's the only other way to find the X, well, what's the other way to find the X-intercept? Quadratic formula, okay? Now, I like the quadratic formula because how often does it work? All the time. People, this works every stinking time, okay? This works sometimes, all right? So, fast, but it doesn't always work. He works all the time. All right, so you're going to find the X-intercept. Everybody can do that, right? Okay. Here's the third thing you're going to do. You're going to sketch an underlined sketch, because it's going to be very sketchy, okay, a graph. I'm going to sketch a graph. Now listen. Does the solution to this problem, is it a graph? No, it's not. There are no y's in this problem. What are we doing? We're using a graph to help us cheat and get the answer really fast, okay? We could do it a lot more difficult. Okay? We can make it a lot harder, but why would we do that when I can sketch a graph and find that answer really fast? So we're using our graph to help us tell what the answer is. Okay? All right. Here's the fourth thing you're going to do. You're going to shade the solution on the graph. Shade the solution on the graph. Now guys, it's either going to be the hump or it's going to be the tail. And I'll show you what that means. Okay? The hump or the tail. Alright. Here's the fifth thing you're going to do. You're going to shade the solution on the x-axis. Alright, the last thing you're going to do is you're going to write the solution in set and interval notation. Okay? So, all we're going to do is go through all these things. I'm going to show you what they mean on this problem, and then we'll work another problem, and on the next problem, I'll let you work just a little bit ahead of me. Let's see what you know, okay? All right, so number 1, make 0 on one side. Tell me what to do. Very good. So minus 6 on both sides. So x squared plus x minus 6 less than or equal to 0. Now I'm going to say this. Once you do that, you might put a star beside that. I'm going to come back and that's going to be my equation I'm going to use to do some of these other things. So I'm just going to star it, check it, box it, do something where I can find it easily because I'm going to do a little work under here, okay? I won't have to look back and hunt for it. All right, next I'm going to find the x-intercept. So what do you think we're going to do? Factor it. Does he factor? Can you think of the factors of 6 that subtract to be 1? Oh, that factor's pretty easy, doesn't it? So, x and x. A minus sign at the end means a plus and a minus. The factors of 6 that subtract to be 1, 2, and 3. I want a positive 1, so who goes by the plus sign? 3. Very good. And the 2 goes here. So if x plus 3 is a factor, what's the x-intercept? What? Negative 3. If x minus 2 is a factor, what's the x-intercept? 2. All right, does everybody know how to do that? Everybody okay? All right. Here's number 3, pardon me. Sketch the graph. Now remember what I said. The graph has nothing to do with the solution. It's just going to help me find the solution. Okay, so let me tell you the more difficult way to look at this problem. Okay? This is what some books will teach you like this. Hey, you're going to multiply 2 numbers. This is 1, and this is another. And this, your answer is going to be less than 0, so it's going to be negative, right? Yes? Okay. How do you get a negative number? With unlike signs, right? So either this one could be greater than 0, and this one less than 0, or this one could be less than 0, and that one would be greater than 0, and you'd have to figure out which one was true. Okay? So that's a lot of thinking. Watch what we're going to do. We're just going to sketch a graph. All I want is an x-axis on my graph. Y'all, I don't care. There is no y in the problem, so I don't really care about the y. What are the only points that I'm going to put on my x-axis? Yeah, negative 3 and 2. Make sure you put them in the right order, okay? The smallest number on the left and the biggest number on the right.
Why did you switch the order from the top? Like, it was positive 3 and negative 2.
From here to here?
Never mind, I wrote my back.
Okay. All right. Okay. So everybody okay now? All right. So here it is. The only other thing that's important is which direction my parabola opens. Does it open up or down? Up. Everybody agree? My x squared is positive, so it opens up. So I'm going to draw it. Okay. The next thing says to shade the solution on the graph. Y'all, this is my hint. It's either the hump or the tail. Here's the hump, obviously, and these are the tails. Okay? Now, look why I did this. Because this tells you what to shade. Look. Let me get a different color. Is this my parabola?
Yes.
Okay. So here's what he's saying. Hey, give me the part of the parabola that's less than 0. Give me the part of the parabola that's less than 0. Would that be above the line or below the line? Below. So would that be the hump or the tail? The hump. So here's the hump. Okay? Now look what number 5 says. Number 5 says, shade the solution on the x-axis. Y'all, where are the x's that give you this hump? Are they in between or on the outside? Everybody agree with that? Okay? Another way you can look at it is if it's the hump and you shade the hump, you would hit. If you shade it all over, I don't normally do it that way, but this is the part of the x-axis that you would hit. You see what I'm saying? Okay. No, I don't like to do it that way because then sometimes I think that it gets carried away with, oh my word. Sorry, I'm like lost my brain. Alright, so we say they get carried away with shading and then they shade too much and all that. So anyway, so I just asked you to think a little bit. Where are the x's? Look, this x gives me this point. 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 So these are obviously the x's that give me the hump. Y'all, where are the x's that give you the tail? Where's the x that gives you this y? Yeah, he's outside here. And this is the x that gives you this y. This is the x that gives you this y. So over here, if I wanted to, where's the hump? Where are those x's always going to be? On the inside. Where are the tails? Where are the x's that give you the tail? On the outside. Okay, so you can make a little cheat sheet like that. Alright, now let's go back over here to this problem. It's on the inside. Now what about when I get to that -3 and that 2? Are those points included or excluded? Why?
They're like right there.
There you go. That's exactly right. This little thing right here. That's what includes them. It's or equal to. So these are solid dots. Alright, last thing. Write the solution in set and interval notation. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and just jot it down for myself. Okay? Where are my x's? Between -3 and 2. So that's exactly where I'll put them. X is. I'm going to put it between them. I always point my arrows to the left. This does have an or equal to sign, so I'll put it there. If you point your arrows, remember, do they always have to be pointed in the same direction? Yes. Remember we talked about that. We learned that, like in chapter 2 or 3 or something, okay? So, they always have to point. I always point mine to the left, and that way, the smallest number goes on the left, and the largest number goes on the right. Okay? Let's see who remembers set notation. Set notation looks like this. It's always in braces. Anybody remember how it starts out? In X, such that, and then you just write this down, people. X is greater than or equal to -3 and less than or equal to 2. That's set notation. Interval notation. Look at your graph. Your graph is a perfect picture of interval notation. What is the smallest number X can be? Inclusive or exclusive? Inclusive. What is inclusive in interval notation? A bracket, yes. Remember how we talked about a bracket looks like someone with their arms holding out, like they were trying to include someone, and a parentheses is excluded, kind of like that boy in the 2nd grade that someone made stand beside the girl who had the cooties, and he's like not touching her, okay? He's excluding her. So, for -3, inclusive, 2, what's the biggest number? Inclusive, how do I do it? Very good. This is interval, this is set. Abby.
On the, like, back up from the back now, still back on it.
Okay.
Why did you change those signs?
Okay. Here's why. Alright, if I'm going to set these factors, how are you going to solve it? You're going to set each factor equal to 0, right? So when you set each factor equal to 0, x plus 3 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. In order to solve for x, you have to do the opposite. That's what changes it. So right here you would add 2 to both sides. That makes x equal to a positive 2. Here you would subtract 3 from both sides, and that will make x equal to a -3. Okay? And so what happens is that you just eventually learn that factors and roots have opposite signs. Okay? If x plus 3 is the factor, -3 is the root. Alright, anybody got a question? Everybody okay? Okay, so we're going to work another problem. Here's the goal, okay? The goal of this problem is for you to stay 1 step ahead of me. Did I say 5 steps? Did I say 2 steps? No. People, don't ask me a question 3 steps ahead, because I'm not doing that. I said, stay 1 step ahead of me, okay? I'm going to give you plenty of time. You don't have to rush. Okay, so here we go. 4b. Negative x squared plus 4x less than negative 21. All right, so you read the first rule and you do it. You read the first rule and then you do it. All right, everybody got it? Okay, what did you get? What? Plus 21. Less than 0. Very good. Okay? Now, you do the second step. You do the second step. Transfer your page. If you're lost, I'm going to give you a little hint. You don't have to, but it certainly will make your life a lot easier. And if you do take it out, what happens to all the time? It changes. You don't, listen to me. You do not have to take the negative out. If you don't take the negative out, you'll get the same answer that we get. I just think it's more difficult. Okay? I struggle factoring with that negative in there, so I don't ever do it. But some of you guys, I'll say y'all are smarter than I am. Y'all can do it and have no problem with it.
When you're finding the original negative on
Okay, that's going to be the next mistake. 1/3 of the kids in this classroom are going to mess up right here. Okay? So first let me factor it, okay, and then I'm going to answer your question. So I took the negative out, so it's x and x, so minus out at the end means plus and minus. Factor of 21, that subtracts to be 4. 7 and 3. I want a negative 4, so where does the 7 go? All right. I want a negative 7 and a positive 3. That'll give me my negative 4. So here's my next question, and this is what Tommy was asking me. 1/3 of the kids in the classroom are going to miss, right now, you're going to miss the whole problem because you're going to do something. What's this, Ruth? Y'all, it is. It's negative 3. Look, we're not changing the rules of the game. What is the only thing this negative out here tells you about it? It opens down. That's it. That is it. He has nothing to do with these roots. He tells you that parabola opens down. That's all he tells you. Don't try and distribute him throughout those parentheses. Okay? First of all, there's only one of them, and you can't distribute it throughout the parentheses. And watch this. Let me show you something. If you did distribute it throughout this parentheses, wouldn't that be negative x minus 3? Everybody agree with that? And then, if you set that equal to 0, watch this. Wouldn't that be negative x is equal to a what? Positive 3? So positive x would be equal to a negative 3. See, guys, you can't just change the sign all of a sudden. Nobody ever taught you that rule. But y'all see that negative, and look, is it a common mistake? Because I'm calling it to your attention. Do I have more than one kid that's doing this? People have got 1/3 of every class, and they're doing the same thing. Okay? Don't do that. What's this one? All right, now, you do the next step. Do the next step. You've got 1 minute. It's a fast and easy one. Yes, they are. All right, so you should have drawn a horizontal line. That's my x-axis. On my x-axis are -3 and +7. Now, what's the other thing I'm going to do? Put your parabola on there. What's important about my parabola? How it opens. People, how it opens, will that make different answers? Oh, yes, it will, okay? Because this one is a less than. If it opened up, you want the hump like we did a while ago. But this one opens down, so instead of wanting the hump, what am I going to get? The tail, okay? So, the next step, that's what it's asking you. It's asking you, shade the part of the parabola that you want. Here's the equation you're supposed to be looking at. Underline it, star it, something. You see how it gets kind of hard to find it because you've written a bunch of mess down. Okay, here's what it says. I want the part of this parabola that's less than 0. Is that above the line or below it? What? Below it, good. So this is the part of the parabola that's my solution. Okay? Now, here's the big question. Where are the x's that give you that part of the parabola? Are they in the inside or on the outside?
On the outside.
On the outside. So this is my solution. Does it include those points, -3 and +7? Why? It's not equal to up there, so that should be hollow dots. All right? No, because that doesn't have anything to do with the other. That's right. That's only when you're graphing the parabola. All right. So let's write this inequality down. What does it say? X is what? Less than -3. Very good. Okay. What's this one say? X is what? Greater than 7. All right. Let's do it. Let's put it in set notation. In set notation, it's going to say any x such that what? Yeah, x is less than -3. Always write the left one down first. People, I think it's crazy when people write this one down first. It makes your brain go, what? What? It just mixes you up. It's insane. Okay? Or what's that? A U with no tail. Don't put a tail on it. You can write the word or in set, but you cannot write it with interval notation. Okay? So just always write the U. Or x is greater than 7. Interval notation. Do you know how to write interval notation for this one? Look at this number line. What's the smallest x can be? Negative infinity. What do you know about negative infinity? It's never included, guys. You can't include something that doesn't ever stop going. Okay? All the way up until you get to -3. Is that inclusive or exclusive? Exclusive. There's no more equal to sign. Union, and then where does it start again? 7, exclusive, all the way to positive infinity. Okay? Guys, this is exactly what PreAP's doing. Okay? On that test, they're looking at it a different way, but they had to use this skill. Okay? They had to use this skill. All right. Anybody got a question? Okay, I'm going to give you one more. All right? One more. And then we're going to be finished. Oh, this one's going to be a doozy. What in the world did she do to us to make it more difficult? Okay. There you go. I'm going to let you do it all by yourself. I'm going to have to do some thinking. I don't think so. How did I make it more difficult?
I put a number in one of those sections for you.
How did I make it more difficult? You can't be factored, y'all. You can't factor it. You can't factor it. If you tried to factor it, just remember what I told you. I said, if you hadn't factored it in a couple of minutes, that was 30 seconds. No, it wasn't. What? Was it? Okay. No, you can't factor, y'all, you can't. Look at those numbers. Are those big, huge, flashy numbers? No. If you can't factor that in just like this, all right, then you need to go, whoa, wait a minute. Let me look at that discriminant. How long does it take you to pop a discriminant in the calculator? 5 seconds?
I got the negative on the negative one. I got negative.
Oh, so instead of adding.
Well, that's not.
You did that.
That was.
Y'all, listen to me. Listen to me. Watch. Here, this, and I saw this on your worksheet a lot, okay? Would it be -1? Can I write this like b squared like that? Y'all people, I saw you consistently do that. That is crazy. Please tell me, I mean, you're in the 10th and 11th grade. You're in PreAP Algebra 2. It is the hardest math class you'll take in high school, okay? And you don't know that you can't square a negative without putting parentheses around it? Come on, guys. 4 times what's A? 2 times what's C? Look, people, I'm going to plug that thing in my calculator. Heck, I'm not even going to waste my brain power. Okay? Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not even going to worry about the negative on B. Why? People, when I swear it, it's always going to be positive. What the heck do I care if I write it down? It's just me. Okay? So I'm just going to say 1, and if you want to square 1, square it. I wouldn't even square it because it's 1. All right? -4 times what's A? Times what's C? Now, how long does that take me? Yeah, that doesn't take, I have to give you 10 seconds. It certainly doesn't take very long. So it's 33. What does that discriminant of 33 tell you about that problem? People, he's not going to factor. Okay? What's the only way you're going to have to find the X-Intercept? Quadratic formula. So, now look, do I already know the discriminant? Then pop that thing underneath that radical, okay? And do the rest of it. This is the -b. What's that going to be? 1. The opposite of -1 is 1. Plus or minus the square root of what? 33, people. You found it. All over 2 times 2. What is that? So 1 plus or minus the square root of 33 over 4. Can you do anything to that? No, you can't do anything to it. That is it. Okay? So we found the X-Intercepts. What's the next step you're supposed to do? Scrap it. Scrap that thing. These 2 points. What's this point right here going to be? 1 what? 1 minus the square root of 33 over 4. Don't you agree that 1 minus the square root of 33 over 4 has to be smaller than 1 plus the square root of 33 over 4? You see what I'm saying? Okay. And then this one must be 1 plus the square root of 33 over 4. Do I care that these are nasty, horrible-looking things? People, I'm still going to just follow the same plan. Okay? I don't care if it takes me 1 whole minute to write the dang thing down. You're just going to do it. You just work the problem. I draw my parabola. How does it open? Look what your equation says. I want this parabola that's greater than 0. What part is that, guys? It's the tail. Okay? So here it is. Where are the x's that give me the tail? On the outside. Do they include those points? Those crazy looking points? Why do they include them?
Because of the,
Because it's or equal to. Okay? So now just write that thing down. Here's this one. It says x is less than 1 minus the square root of 33 over 4. Here's this one. It says x is greater than 1 plus the square root of 33 over 4. You want to write it in set notation? Oh, word. Watch this. I'm so fancy. X such that. X is less than this. Or x is greater than that. Boom. There it is. Okay? I'm going to do integral notation. Where do I start? Where? Negative infinity. Included or excluded? And never included, guys. Always excluded. All the way up until you get to what? The 1 minus, the crazy number. Who cares what it is, people? So just write the dang thing down. Excluded or included? Included. Union. Now start the other crazy number. 1 plus the square root of 33. Over 4, all the way to positive 2. So, set notation, integral notation. Anybody got questions? No? Everybody okay? Jacob.
What if you do finish line? Like the 1 plus minus.
I don't want that. Okay, listen to me. If you finish solving it, you're giving me a decimal, right? So that means you're approximating it. Because an irrational number never stops. Okay? So I'm going to take points away from you from doing that. And plus, where am I going to think you probably got it? Off your calculator. Okay? From graphing the parabola and finding its root. Because you can do it that way. That's not the way I'm teaching you to do it. Okay? Alright, so there's your 10 problems right here on the board. Take a picture of them. The answers, Jody, let's go get the answers.
sorry.